Tech Sideline is presented by First Bank and Trust Company, a nationally ranked community-focused bank with over 30 locations throughout Virginia, Northeast Tennessee, and North Carolina. Who you choose to bank with can make all the difference. Visit firstbank.com to learn more.
What's up, Hokie Nation, and welcome into episode 422 of the Tech Sideline podcast. Yes, that actually happened yesterday. Metallica played in Lane Stadium, and we have so much to break down about how that went, and also some spring portal additions for Brent Pry and company. All that and much more coming up on episode 422 of the Tech Sideline podcast, which starts right now. And we're recording on Thursday, May 8th, 2025 from our high-tech studio in the Virginia Tech Corporate Research Center. Remember to like, subscribe, and refer the show to a friend. I'm your host, Carter Hill. To my right is our lead analyst and columnist, Chris Coleman. Across the way is our senior staff writer, Andy Bitter, rocking on as everybody was in Lane Stadium last night. Nick Brown, our director of media, is producing behind the scenes, and we are so thrilled to have you join us on this Thursday morning. As always, Tech Sideline is presented by First Bank and Trust Company. Today's TSL podcast is also sponsored by the Robertson and Cox Real Estate Team. Looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? We've got your back. Centrally located in Radford, Virginia, the RNC team is proudly and professionally serving the New River Valley, Roanoke, and Southwest Virginia. Contact us today for all of your real estate needs at rncteam.com to learn more. Guys, Metallica played in Lane Stadium. Andy, you were there to cover it. Nick, you were there as well. I was there. Chris was taking it in from a little bit behind the scenes, but I know you still have some thoughts.
Chris experienced it through osmosis.
Yes.
It was very unique. So it was kind of a cloudy, overcast night. The weather was good, but it was overcast. So I'm sitting there at my house, and I'm watching the lights from the stadium like bouncing off the clouds. It was like... it was almost like if you've seen like an old World War II movie or something where they're like shooting shells at airplanes and the flak is exploding. That's what it looked like in the clouds. So it was very, very unique.
Well, Andy, we'll start with you. I mean, what a night at Lane Stadium. I mean, the largest crowds ever seen event in Lane Stadium history. I think it's something that a lot of fans were wanting to see the last 25 years, and to see it come to fruition was pretty magical to see in person.
It was nuts that it actually happened. I got a press pass for it, and what they do on that, they give you what's called a review ticket. So I was sitting on like the 50-yard line, basically, in section 129, row P. So like great seats, much better seats than I thought they were going to have for this thing. And to be out there and to see it happen, I tweeted this afterwards. I'm like, as cool as you thought that was going to be, it exceeded those expectations. Like it was just a great event. Like, sports writers in general are cynical about everything. It's just sort of, goes with the job. You have to sort of have a jaundiced eye about stuff and question stuff like, is it really that great? This was that great. Like everything about it was awesome. Like it lived up to the expectations. It exceeded them. I wouldn't call myself a huge Metallica fan. I'm familiar with Metallica, but gosh, it was just cool to be out there and to see this actually happen. It's been talked about for so long. Enter Sandman lived up to everything that you hoped it would be at that point. It was packed to the gills, to the end. All the way to the top. It wasn't like a fake sellout that they do for football games where you look in the corners. It's like, okay, where the opposing band is sitting, it's not really full all the way up there. This was all the way to the top, back row, full front to back of the concert. So just really impressed by the whole thing. They're obviously one of the top touring bands of all time. They know how to put on a show. And it was just cool to experience in that and see what they could do in a stadium like that.
Chris, could you hear anything from your house?
Yeah. Like where I live, I can even hear like the PA announcer and the crowd from softball games.
Oh, can you really?
Yeah, like sound carries very far, especially at night.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was able to hear.
It was loud. I got there early, so I'm walking around seeing stuff, and I went to see my wife. She was working an event up at the Marching Virginian Center. And she's looking out for me when I'm there. So she hands me, she's like, here, take these earplugs with you. And I'm like, come on, lady, I'm here to rock, right? Yeah. Let me go here and experience the thing. And then I get in the stadium and they start playing, and I put those earplugs in immediately. I'm like, good Lord, this is loud. This is going to be a loud experience. So I very quickly changed my tune on the earplugs, and I'm glad I had them. You could still hear everything, but it wasn't just like ear-splitting volume that it would be.
That's like me the first time I went to a NASCAR race. Right. Here's some earplugs. Oh, I'm not going to need those.
Yeah, I'm here to rock.
Lap 3, earplugs in.
Yeah. Nick, I do want to chime you in real fast because you were also in attendance. So I want to get kind of your thoughts on seeing it in person. And again, what a show it was at Lane Stadium.
If I can unmute my mic, of course. Yeah, it was unbelievable. Everything that you could have imagined, like Andy said, it was better. I was 4th row from the top in East Stands, and it was packed. I mean, we were in there like sardines. I'm sure that people were sitting in seats that they weren't supposed to sit in, but they were there, and it was just amazing, and it was a cool experience. And I told Jack Brizendine, who I was sitting with, that this is the most eclectic group of individuals I think I've ever seen. I mean, it was like a normal football crowd, and then, like Andy said also in a tweet, that there's like a bunch of metalheads and diehard Metallica fans, diehard Pantera fans, diehard Suicidal Tendencies fans. I mean, it was just really, really cool to see everybody come together just to see this band. And man, they know how to put on a show and really turn up a crowd and build it up to the pinnacle, which was Enter Sandman, of course.
I'm walking around. I'm like, this is not a football crowd here.
No.
But I was there so early that I got there for like the true diehards that line up early to get into the Suicidal Tendencies and Pantera portion of the concert. I don't think a lot of the casuals, a lot of the Hokies fans that want to go see Enter Sandman are going to be there at 4:00 when the concert started. I didn't go in until Metallica started.
Okay.
At 8:50, I think they went off, something like that. So, I tweeted earlier, this is a Metallica crowd, but I think it tilted the balance a little bit by the end. Where there were a lot more just sort of Hokies fans, more casual, because there was a point in the concert where James Hetfield is talking to the crowd. He's like, how many people, this is their first concert? And a lot of people's hands went up.
Mine did.
Certainly almost the entire student section, I would imagine this was their first one. But I think a lot of people were seeing that for the first time and being brought into the whole Metallica experience by doing that. So I think it was probably a pretty good mix between like diehards and non-diehard fans, and pretty good mix of ages. I thought, young and old. There's some people there that like they've been following Metallica for 40 some years. Then other people, they're like, I'm 18 years old coming to this concert. So I thought it was just an interesting mix of things. And I think everybody just enjoyed the show at the same time. Like you go there and you're like, oh man, some of these hardcore metal guys, like what kind of trouble are they going to start? Everybody was great in the concert. They're just there to rock out and to have a really good time. Like I just thought it was a fun atmosphere.
I want to look at it from a little bit of a different perspective.
Sure.
As someone who's lived in this town for almost a quarter of a century now, if you drive from South Main to North Main, you see more empty storefronts in Blacksburg than you ever have. Mm-hmm. Like half of First and Main is empty now. A bunch of places downtown are empty. Business has not been good for this town in recent years, especially ever since COVID. And some places that used to be open 7 days a week are now only open 5 days a week. Students started doing their classes online during COVID, which means they don't stay for summer school anymore in the numbers that they used to. That has hurt local businesses, particularly at bars and restaurants and things like that. So I'm really happy for the town itself to get that event. It's like having an extra football game. And I met friends at Cabo before the concert yesterday, and then we walked to a tailgating lot. But that's what struck me, is like Cabo was full. Cabo was packed. And I'm sure if you'd gone all the way down Main Street, the other bars and restaurants were packed as well. So that was a big boon to local businesses, and I was really glad to see that.
Yeah. Counterpoint to the empty storefronts, Substation 2 is coming back.
Boom.
Big news.
Huge news.
That we actually should have led the podcast with that instead of Metallica.
I thought it was fake news this morning until I saw David tweeted it out. I was like, oh my gosh, it's actually coming back.
Someone's teasing me. No way.
Well, somebody put it out there. I'm like, is this real? And then I saw that the real Substation account retweeted that. So I was like, okay, it must be real. So Metallica and Substation coming back in the same week. Does it get any better than that?
No,
that's awesome.
It really can't.
To your point, though, I've never seen Blacksburg like I saw it yesterday. I really didn't. I mean, like you mentioned, you've been here for 25 years. I grew up in Blacksburg. Nick grew up in Blacksburg. And maybe I'm being naive, but I've been to plenty of football games at Virginia Tech. And to see the crowds across town yesterday were insane. And to see the crowds trying to leave the parking lots yesterday, too, and even like behind the stadium on Green Street and Center Street, it was unreal. I mean, they were probably sitting there for an hour to 2 hours.
That's what happens when everybody leaves at the same time.
Sure.
Not everybody leaves at the same time for football games.
That's a good point. North did stay intact yesterday. It doesn't typically do that for football games.
Exactly.
Well, with the crowd, we set up a Castle Coliseum in a media room down there. So I would come outside every now and then and check it out to kind of see what was going on. And it felt like there was just a steady stream of people flowing into the stadium for like 2 hours. and I didn't quite know where they were all coming from. Like, I don't know where they had to park to get there. Obviously, the south lot was filled with semi-trailers and stuff, so that's a big parking lot that's not available, so they have to move those people somewhere else. But it just felt like there were more and more people flowing into that stadium throughout the thing. And obviously, when you fill up the entire crowd and then you have 8,000 people or whatever it was on the floor, I mean, that's the biggest crowd in Lane Stadium history. I haven't seen an official number, but, you know, it's going to be bigger than the football game, obviously, because you don't have people on the field to that capacity. So I imagine when they put the official numbers out there, it's going to be like 72,000 or something. I mean, it's going to be a pretty big number.
Well, there were people even outside the stadium, like selling like Metallica t-shirts too, and food trucks. And, you know, like when you go to a city and like instead of Ubering or taxiing, you can pay to like hop on like a bike with somebody. Yeah. There were all those going around town yesterday too, which is crazy.
Do those people just follow Metallica around from like they take that bike and they bike here from Nashville or something like that? I don't know how that works.
I should have broke out a rickshaw last night. I could have made some money.
Some of those pop-up grills, I got to be honest, like there's not a lot of food around the place if you're not tailgating. So those smelled pretty good. We could go by, like, I don't know if I want to eat what they're making there, but they smelled good. Might
be a good idea for a football game. I don't know how that would work being on campus at Virginia Tech, but yeah, I mean.
Oh, you have to get a permit.
Oh, yeah. Maybe tough. Andy, I want to go back to you because you've covered this event kind of from start to finish. How did this come to be? How did Metallica end up playing at Lane Stadium, playing at Virginia Tech, and what were kind of all the logistics to making it work?
Well, Jed Castro won an arm wrestling contest 25 years ago. That's where it starts. If you don't, this is sort of the legend of how this whole thing started. And Enter Sandman started at Virginia Tech was that Jed Castro is now a senior associate athletic director now in video, was part of the video office back then when they were choosing the song. And the legend has it, I've never got this confirmed from Jed or anything, that they had a couple choices and they had an arm wrestling contest within the video office to choose, to see who would choose the song that they would come out to, because they were picking a new song to, I think they had a new video board going up at the time. And Jed won and he picked Enter Sandman. And he's sort of like, I think they wanted to change it after a couple of years, and he's like, no, you got to give it time. This thing's going to work. So, I mean, from those humble beginnings, this tradition is born. And then, you know, over time, it's like, what can they do to get Metallica to come here to play? I heard if you just like tried to pay them to come play the opener, like just show up, play the song as the team's coming out, and then leave town, it would have been like $5 million or something like that. So in their negotiations, Metallica's like, why don't we just play a concert here instead? And if you're from Virginia Tech's perspective, you're like, well, we can make some money off of this instead of having to just spend money for them to come here for one song. And, you know, you see the production of this whole thing and how many trucks it takes to come in. And you remember that message board rumor that would pop up every now and then? It's like, I heard 4 hotel rooms are being reserved under the names, aliases for the members of Metallica. It was a pop-up like before the season opener every couple of years or something like that. It's like, how hilariously quaint is that message board room? Like, it takes 350 people to come in and build the stage ahead of time. Like the planning and production and everything that goes into this whole event is a lot more than 4 hotel rooms that they're trying to reserve for this thing. So it's funny that, like, from those humble beginnings, 25 years later, they sell out the show and 70,000 people. But, you know, I think it was through persistence on Virginia Tech's part. And, you know, Brad Worthman, especially, I think he was one of the leading figures in this whole thing that just sort of kept bugging Live Nation and Metallica about it. You have to a little bit. It's just like, hey, want to do this? Want to do this? Want to do this? And eventually they said, yeah, let's do this. And I mean, all of a sudden you see Blacksburg on a list of this world tour where it's like Philadelphia, Houston, Detroit, you know, Munich overseas, Blacksburg, Virginia. Like, one of these doesn't belong, but yet it did belong because it was such a great venue for this.
Yeah.
I can't confirm this. I saw it on our boards today by a really smart guy who posted it. He said he couldn't confirm it, but he's heard that as far as production value, cost to put on the event, number of people involved, like, a Metallica concert is second only to Taylor Swift as far as resources poured into the concert.
It wouldn't surprise me.
It wouldn't shock me either.
Yeah,
I mean,
after seeing the setup now,
they said it's what, 87 semi trucks coming in, 350 people involved in that whole thing. I mean, it is a massive, massive production. I think in the lead up to it, a lot of us media members, we didn't get a lot of information ahead of time because we're like, like where we have to go, what are we going to be able to see and stuff like this. And it's like, that's just kind of how these rock concerts rolls. It's a machine, and it goes from town to town. And when they get to that town, they'll deal with you. But like, they're dealing with Nashville 3 days before this or 4 days before it, whatever it was. Once they get here, they'll get you the information, and this all kind of happens last second. But this production rolls from town to town like this. And yeah, I rolled up by Lane Stadium today. And I think by the end of today, we're recording this at 1 o'clock on Thursday. I think by the end of the day, you're not going to be able to tell that there was a concert there. I mean, they've taken down the stage. The shell of a lot of those towers is all that's left. And that's still a lot of steel that they have to be taken down there. But certainly compared to what it was last night, and I left Castle at 2:30 in the morning, get back to my car in the parking lot. They were already working on taking down the stage. So this thing it's a machine that goes from town to town, and the stage goes up and it comes down real quick, and they're on to the next place. But I mean, it's an incredible production. The number of people involved in it is just amazing.
Yeah, like they're already in Columbus, Ohio, I think. So they've got like at least 2 stage groups.
They have two. I think they have 20 trucks with 2 stages that kind of leapfrog each other. That go to different sites like that.
Nick, I think you had something behind the scenes too. You were flagging me down, so go ahead.
Yeah, as someone that has seen Taylor Swift and Metallica now within 1 calendar year, yeah, very similar crowds, by the way. I don't know which crowd has more diehard fans, by the way, Metallica or Taylor Swift. They're pretty comparable, but I guess the sheer production and just seeing it as a fan perspective, Taylor Swift's concert, I mean, it's enormous and it's bigger than Metallica, but I also saw Luke Combs last summer, and Metallica blew Luke Combs' production away, and so it is cool. And I guess I take it for granted. I was just like, oh yeah, I've seen Taylor Swift, Luke Combs, and Metallica all within a year of each other. But I guess, like Chris said, I've seen now the 2 biggest live shows that you can see, like regular touring group. I'm not talking about festivals, but yeah, they're very comparable. The crowds not so much, but the sheer size of it and magnitude of it. And you get the same awe factor. When Taylor Swift walked out on the stage, I was like, holy crap, that's Taylor Swift, and you're like, whoa, that's crazy. And I had that same awe in Lane Stadium, like, that's crazy. I graduated on that field last year, and Metallica within a year is playing in Lane Stadium, something that we never thought would have happened, and it did, and it's so cool.
They got to get Lane Stadium ready for graduation next week, too. So it's a very quick process getting the sod back on the field and everything.
Well, by Friday, they're going to start resodding.
Yeah.
And it's going to be done in like 48 hours. And then graduation, I think, is a week from Thursday or something like that. So Friday. So the turnaround is incredible. I mean, it's amazing how quickly they do this whole thing. Yeah. But I guess that's the rock life, I guess. You zoom into town and you're out the next day and things are back to normal. You mentioned the lead up to them walking on stage. The fact that they teased Enter Sandman and walked out to it was, it got me going. And then, like, you sit through the whole concert. And again, like, I'm kind of a bad example because I have not been to a ton of concerts. I'm not a big Metallica person. I've heard of, prior to yesterday, Enter Sandman and For Whom the Bell Tolls. Those are the 2 songs I'd heard of from Metallica. I didn't recognize a song until halfway through. Really? When they played Fuel. Okay. That was the first one, and then they kind of went through a run of the hits from back in the day. Is that the Give Me Fuel, Give Me Fire? Okay. Yeah, that's when the pyro was coming out of the stage like that. Then they went through, and what was this? The run of songs they had at the end, Nothing Else Matters, Sad But True, One. One was a really cool one. Master of Puppets. Yeah, that they had that at the right before Enter Sandman. And then James Hetfield is like, good night. It's like, okay, you're not, sure, there's no way. There's 0% chance. Like, it was the least convincing good night in the history of rock shows. So I thought they played that pretty well, playing along. Like, all right, we're gonna take off here, and be like, no, play another one. So lead in with Enter Sandman though, and to tease it because they played it through essentially right before the words start, the lyrics start. Yeah. For those who weren't there, and it was a pre-recorded. It was the version they play at the stadium. Mm-hmm. So they basically had their own Enter Sandman entrance to their own concert. Yeah, which is kind of a funny way to do it. They had big VT logos on those towers that were going around the stadium. So that was kind of a cool way to start it. Yeah, I said goodnight, and then he came back 5 seconds later and said, "I said goodnight," and everybody's like, no. And then they did the Let's Go Hokies, which was a very nice touch, I thought. And Enter Sandman itself was just, I mean, the place was ready to explode with it. Yeah. And I think it did. I mean, once it got to it, like, I mean, I recorded it on my phone a little bit. I haven't posted it. I don't want to get sued by Metallica or something like that.
Oh, jeez, I posted it.
No, I don't think they're going to. There is a media member that there's maybe a little line you don't want to cross with that whole thing. But I mean, yeah, it was an incredible performance. Everybody was into it. I think the students were jumping throughout the entire thing. I don't think they even stopped at any point. But really well done, and it was fun. It was like the Battle of Bristol. Like, I'm glad I went to the spectacle of that event. I don't know if I need to go again. I don't know if I need to see Metallica in Columbus. I'm probably not going to drive up there this week and go see it, but I'm glad I went to this one and got to experience. Like, I am glad I got to go to the Battle of Bristol and see it, even though I don't want to see a football game in that stadium again. Though I am seeing a baseball game.
Are you going to that Braves game?
I do have tickets to it. Yeah,
Are you going, Chris?
We're in the Jeff Gordon section in the outfield, which might be 800 feet away for all I know, but gonna go drink some beer and watch some baseball with binoculars, I guess.
Yeah.
I feel like I got to go to that because Major League Baseball, when's it going to be this close to Blacksburg, Virginia ever again? So that's why I'm going. Question. But yeah, Metallica was awesome. Obviously, Enter Sandman's the reason Metallica came. That goes without saying. Do you think, though, long term, Blacksburg could sustain another major concert such as what we saw last night?
I think a lot went into the Metallica concert, and that's a very special group to Virginia Tech fans. That's 25 years of pent-up energy. I think it would be difficult to fill Lane Stadium for the vast majority of acts you could bring in. So I don't think it's likely.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there was a crossover appeal to Metallica, and certainly a special band to come here and play like that. And I don't know that you could get 60,000 to show up. I mean, stadium tours are hard to fill.
Yes.
And they go to major cities for a reason when they're doing that. And, you know, there's sort of an economics of it. You go to a major city, Metallica does 2 shows in a city, and then they move on somewhere else. So to come here and do a one-off, and and then if it's an arena tour, they're obviously not going to come here. Nobody's going to play in Castle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't. Castle doesn't have big enough doors to actually get big concert equipment in. That's why, like, they used to have concerts in Castle and things like that. But as the concert industry progressed and their equipment started getting bigger and everything like that, you can't fit that stuff into Castle.
The big like roll-up doors and everything you got to have.
So
right?
It's got to be a big enough act with a big enough appeal that they would play here, but then if you're going to do that, you would probably go to bigger cities anyway. So I'm skeptical that this is all of a sudden going to lead to a rush of concerts, even though I thought it was well done.
It was.
I thought Live Nation did a great job with it, and Virginia Tech helping them out. I thought it was pretty seamless. Perhaps it wasn't behind the scenes. I don't know all the intricacies of that whole thing, but I thought they set it up and ran it really well.
I thought the video, too, where Brent Pry is presenting them jerseys, too, beforehand in the ACC Network studios, just the cherry on top. And I know,
the old jerseys.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Lighten up, people.
I didn't even realize that until people started saying
it. Me neither, to be honest with you.
What do you think?
Metallica doesn't know that.
They're going to put it in a storage closet where they live or something like that. I don't think they're going to be wearing it around tour or anything like that.
Yeah.
Just for you don't need to be angry about everything. There's some things, just let it go.
It was a cool touch though to see them get those jerseys from Brent Pry.
Yeah. I saw Brent Pry before. I was walking around outside, and he was coming back from giving them the jerseys, and walking up Beamer Way, and people are taking pictures with him every 3 seconds. But he's like, yeah, I'm going to go watch it from my suite in the stadium. He's like, I've never been in there before. Because, when is he ever going to be in there? He's coaching the game. He's not going to be up in his suite. So kind of an interesting thing for him.
How about the Tim Sands picture?
Yeah, he was there to rock out as well.
Wearing a Metallica, school president wearing a Metallica t-shirt, looked like he was ready to rock and roll. It was great.
I can confirm though, the entire north end zone was jumping up and down throughout the entirety of Enter Sandman. My feet are tired. I walked around a lot yesterday. I walked around town the whole day. So it turned into this. What I'm trying to get back to, it turned into this day-long event. If you're able to come to Blacksburg and take the day off of work and didn't have to worry about classes, it turned into this big event where you could start at noon and go downtown and enjoy some lunch and go see some people. And then it turned essentially into a football game day minus no football game.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, I do that 6 times a year already in Blacksburg, right? It was a day-long event for a lot of people. Like I said, I met friends at Cabo. And then we walked to Lot 5 and to the tailgate lot, and there was plenty of people out tailgating. A lot of people enjoying the day.
All right.
The other part of it is, think of what Virginia Tech can do with this. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, they only cleared like $1 million on this thing. It's like, that's not the point. Like, don't worry about that. First of all, they had no leverage in this contract negotiations. Like, give us more money, and they're like, well, we won't come to Blacksburg then. Okay. No leverage in that whole situation. But second of all, like, think of all the secondary stuff and ancillary stuff that they can do from this in terms of, pumping the videos out there with Metallica's approval. I'm sure they're going to have to approve everything that goes out there, but merchandise that you can sell off of this, the experience that people got to have in Lane Stadium. When was the last time some people had that good of an experience in Lane Stadium?
2021 UNC game is the last time I enjoyed my experience in Lane Stadium.
But we're thinking about like indelible moments in Lane Stadium. It's like Beamer's retirement game, which they lost.
The Nebraska game?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a minute since they've had some really great memories in that stadium, and to produce that and tie it into being at Virginia Tech and being in that stadium and feeling great about things, I think it's a really good opportunity. So I mean, they can build off of this, and ideally they would hope they would have some football success in the fall as well. But this is a nice thing that you can build around and just kind of do various things off of.
To that point, Nick posed this question to me earlier today. Was this the biggest positive event in Virginia Tech history? And maybe if it's not the most, how long do you think Virginia Tech fans are going to be thinking about a day like yesterday? Again, to your point, if football success starts to come, what a great way to kickstart that. Is this, to go back to the initial question, one of the biggest events in Virginia Tech football history, one of the biggest positive events?
I think it depends on if you can take advantage of it. And like having that event's not going to help you win more football games this year. Sure. And Virginia Tech has to win more football games this year. Some things are going to change. I think for me, it's like when game day started coming to Blacksburg in 1999, Virginia Tech took advantage of that. And they were able to ride that wave for more than a decade, about 15 years, basically. So I think that was a major positive event for Virginia Tech athletics, Virginia Tech football, that they were able to take advantage of. How could they take advantage of this event to make the football program better? I don't know. I don't know if you can. I mean, the portal's closed. I think Tech has signed as many guys as they're going to sign. I think it was a moment in time, great feel-good moment for the fan base. I will say this. I get this question a lot. What would you do to improve the game day experience in Lane Stadium? And like, my answer is always win more games. I really don't care what song the bands play or how loud the music is. I want to watch my team win football games when I'm in there. Did being involved with a group like Live Nation, who puts on concerts all over the country every day of the week, did Virginia Tech learn anything from that they could potentially translate over to a football game day atmosphere? That would be a question for Brad Worthman, who I'm guessing might still be in bed right now because he had a long couple of weeks.
I would hope so. I will say this. That was my first experience with those seat backs. They are not comfortable. They're not. I mean, we weren't sitting. You sit there beforehand, then you're standing the entire show, so it didn't really play into it. But I was sitting on, I'm like, if I'm here for 3 hours and I'm sitting on this thing, this would not be comfortable. So I don't know. Some athletic department feedback for you right there from somebody who's not a fan.
So now you can relate to it, and people are in your mentions.
I can. I'm like, get me up in my press box seat. I like that much better.
All right. Well, you mentioned getting better on the gridiron. Metallica was great, but Virginia Tech and the Hokies have added on some transfers as of late. The spring football portal window has now added 10 to the Virginia Tech football roster. And since you guys last recorded, linebacker Antoine Santiago comes in from Temple, wide receiver Isaiah Spencer from Jackson State, defensive lineman Emmanuel Hickman. Is that how you pronounce it, Nick? Okay. Hickman comes in from South Florida. Linebacker Michael Short comes in from North Carolina. Offensive lineman Jaden Muskrat comes in from Auburn. And quarterback Garrett Rangel comes in from Oklahoma State. So what kind of stands out about that group, and how are they going to improve the Hokies as a whole?
10 total guys brought in during this window. 6 on defense, 4 on offense. You can see the focus. Now remember that Virginia Tech didn't get their coordinators hired until after the winter portal ended. Now, obviously, Bowen didn't even leave until after the winter portal ended. So Montgomery definitely didn't have a chance before spring ball to get any new players in. But just sticking with the defensive side of the ball first, Seifkis was hired after the winter portal closed. Pride knew about what he wanted, I think, and what type of defense they were going to switch to. but he couldn't fully go all in. But he signed safeties and a couple of defensive tackles. But after 15 practices with Cephas able to evaluate exactly what he's got on defense, they were like, all right, we need defensive tackles and we need linebackers. And they also signed Caleb Brown, the cornerback from Hawaii. I don't know that would have happened if Joshua Clark hadn't torn his ACL. I think when you look at the defensive tackles, there's a notable effort towards getting a little more size and a little more length, particularly with Cody Heisman. Yes, his last name is Heisman from North Dakota State. He and Hickman, I think, are very good prospects. So they're the ones I like the most. Santiago and Short at linebacker are both natural inside linebackers. Now, they have not been starters for Temple or UNC. I will point out that Temple has had a couple of linebackers. Like, he was behind a couple of guys from Temple who went to the NFL. And then this past year, he was behind guys who all graded out in like the 70s. Like, Temple has had much better linebackers than Virginia Tech over the last few years. I know that sounds odd to say, especially if you go back to the 90s like me, but it's true. They've had good linebackers, so he's got a chance to help Tech. Michael Short at UNC. Wish he'd redshirted a couple years ago, but he did play over 200 snaps on special teams, which you don't see very often. I think he should be coming into his own now. He got I think it was a little over 100 snaps last year at linebacker. I think he should be hitting his stride, so to speak. Virginia Tech needs competition there. You know, you've got Jaden Keller, who's always been one of the ACC's lowest grading linebackers every year. You've got some other guys like Caleb Spencer moving in there. He's in his third year of college football. He's in his third different position. He's never played inside linebacker. Sure. He changes positions every year. He's changed schools once. It's just a lot of unknown at those positions. So I think you create much more competition and much more depth by bringing those guys in. They added a guard from West Virginia, Gavin Crawford. Offensive tackle Jaden Muskrat from Auburn. Obviously some familiarity with the Tech staff at both of those with both of those guys. Muskrat is a guy who, all right, I know people are like, oh, Tech signed an offensive tackle from Auburn. Yeah, he played 27 snaps last year for an offense that only scored 7 points on Vanderbilt. Yeah. Okay, right. Who scored 14 points and a loss to a Cal team that went 2-6 in the ACC. Like, he struggled to play against for a bad Auburn offense. His career grades, whether he's been at Tulsa or Auburn, have all been kind of the same, no matter what competition he's played against. He's a 6'3" tackle. He's built more like a guard to play right tackle. That has led to pass blocking issues. Like, he grades out lower in pass blocking than Parker Clements. And I know Tech fans don't want to hear that, but he does. That being said, he has a little more versatility than Parker Clements and Bob Schick, which is kind of like the guys he's replacing. Yeah. He can play inside, he can play outside. He's primarily been a tackle, but he can play both. He'll be a valuable piece. Is he a starter? I'm inclined to think not at this point, but he is a two-deep guy who can provide depth at both those spots, and that's important.
Okay. Do you think any of these guys start?
That's a good question.
It's such a weird, like, the transfer portal is so weird. Like, even like 3 or 4 years, now 2 years ago, when you got a transfer, you're like, this guy's coming in to start, probably.
Right.
I'd say 75% of the guys are coming in, and you're like, this is going to be a plug-and-play type guy. You recruit the other ones, and now there's going to be 50 new guys on this roster. Yeah. I mean, 30 transfers, 20 freshmen coming in. It's unrecognizable. I know less about this roster than I've ever known. I need a list of players to even keep them straight or remember them all.
Print this out.
But it feels like all these guys they picked up in the spring portal, probably depth pieces. I don't know that any of them are going to start, and they might eventually get to that level, but I just, going into it, not having been here for spring ball, you know, they arrive in the summer and then their first practices on the field are in August, you know, a month before the games start. How much progress do you make on the depth chart or in the playbook at that point to be able to rise up and make a huge impact and start? I don't know. But it feels like what we've seen in this spring portal is shoring up some depth and maybe some guys that, you know, maybe not this year, but the year after that might be in the mix to compete for something.
So remind me, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I didn't talk about him, but Isaiah Spencer. Mm-hmm. He might actually have the best chance to start, even though he's from Jackson State. He's a natural slot receiver. Virginia Tech's starting slot receiver right now is Cameron Selden, who's literally never played wide receiver before at the college level. So Isaiah Spencer is a guy who I think could come in and potentially compete for a starting job.
Receiver, it matters less at receiver. There's so many packages and rotations.
And also for defensive tackle as well. The Tech assign a ton of defensive tackles. We don't know exactly what the defense is going to look like. There's going to be times where I think they line up maybe with 2 edge guys and 3 tackles, and it's like a legitimate 5-2 in short yardage situations. There could be other times where a defensive end comes off the field for a defensive tackle. So you've got 1 edge and 3 tackles on the field, and then a safety slides down on the outside on the edge. So you've got like a 5-2 light. And it's just a lot of things we don't know about this defense yet. So it's like I can't really praise them or criticize them in terms of their strategy of bringing in so many defensive tackles until I have a further, I can actually see what the defense looks like.
So Jaden Muskrat was the guy they recruited out of high school, correct? I recognize the name.
When he hit the portal so he played at Tulsa for Philip Montgomery.
That's right. Okay.
And then Montgomery got fired, and so he hit the portal. Well, then Virginia Tech offered him then. So that was after the 2022 season. So Montgomery lands at Auburn as their offensive coordinator, and he goes to Auburn with Montgomery. Played around 200 snaps his first year there, and then just 27 last year. And so he's basically going wherever Montgomery goes.
And then Hickman was a Virginia guy, correct? Started at ECU, went to South Florida. Yeah, and he's not necessarily
he's a Metallica guy. Okay. I think he's a good player too. Okay. I think Virginia Tech's like their top 4 defensive tackles. I think they're going to have quality depth there this year. I really like Hickman and Heisman.
Andy, I felt bad for you because we were busy playing slow pitch softball when Hickman and Michael Short committed.
Not just playing,
we won.
Winning.
We won.
2-22 all time? Is that what we are, Nick?
All the Twitter.
Blacksburg Bombers on Twitter. That's true. So Garrett Rangel was interesting to me as well. I don't know, and maybe I'm just naive to it. I don't know if I expected Virginia Tech to take a quarterback in the spring portal window, but I get you always want to add depth, and right now your 3rd and 4th options are true freshmen.
Yeah, I get it. I wasn't necessarily expecting it either. I was a little bit surprised by it, but I'm also not. I can see why they did it.
Once Belfour left, I think you're looking for somebody.
Probably so, yeah.
Because you don't want to, again, true freshman, you're in trouble if you get 2 true freshmen.
I heard they weren't really impressed with Belfour this spring anyway. And I think even if you throw that part of it out, the top 2 quarterbacks did not play in the spring game because of injury. We know Drones is having surgery, or had surgery. I assume Pops isn't that severe, but we don't know it for a fact because they don't tell us injury information.
I think it was a thumb.
I think
he had his thumb wrapped when we talked to him earlier in that week. So they said soft tissue. That sounds like what it was.
Right.
But I mean, they got the QB3 last year.
Right.
They did.
In significant parts of the season. So it's got to be in their mind like, hey, this can happen.
And we don't know like how well Drones and Pop did this spring. Like, they might have done great for all we know, and we've heard nothing but positive comments from Montgomery about it. But if they weren't doing well, it's not like you'd be out there like, man, we really need to upgrade the quarterback room, right? So this is a guy who fits his system, I think. Wrangle, I guess. Are you wrangling someone? Is that how you pronounce his name?
I guess.
That's what we're going to go with.
Like Plain State's name.
It really is.
He really fit on the Cowboys at Oklahoma State. Yeah, I think the important thing is he's got 2 years.
Yeah.
So you're thinking beyond this year as well. He could be in the mix for a competition next year where, once Drones is done here, Watson or Wrangle, is that it? Do you go to the portal to bring somebody else? At least you're not starting from the sense of like, all right, well, it's Pop and then 2 freshmen competing for that job. There's a little bit more experience in that room. So, and I think, like you said, Montgomery comes in February whenever they hired him. This is a guy he's got familiarity with. They recruited him at Tulsa. I think they offered him when Montgomery is at Tulsa. So, perhaps fits his idea of what he wants to do with his offense, his system a little bit better.
So is he going to battle Pop to be the backup quarterback then?
I would think
assume.
So. Yeah, he's got a little bit more experience than Pop. He's a year older, but at the same time, he doesn't have a ton of experience. I think he's got 4 or 5 career starts. 51% career completion percentage. Not great. Not great yards per attempt. Most of his starts, though, came when he was a true freshman, when he wasn't ready. I'll say this past year against West Virginia, he started that game 4 or 5 for 75 yards and a touchdown and then got hurt. So he looked like he was showing progress. Now, that being said, the week before against Utah, he was 3 of 11 for 29 yards. What we have to remember is that Oklahoma State was terrible. That was by far the worst season of the Mike Gundy era this past year. They went 3-9 overall, 0-9 in the Big 12. So how much can you judge one player, especially the quarterback, when so many bad things are happening around him?
Sure.
So I don't know how good he is. I do know that he's probably, I'm guessing Montgomery probably views him as maybe a little bit better fit for the type of offense he's used to running than maybe the guys currently in the program. But I don't think, he would admit that publicly, nor should he. I don't think he's going to be the starter, though.
No, sure.
I think on our message boards, it was like, oh, this is a shot across the bow to drone. It's like, I don't think that's what this is. I think it's not a Schlee situation where you're bringing him in specifically to be the backup for the 1 year that he's here, because there's a little bit longer runway because he has an extra year. But I also don't think he's coming in going, I'm going to compete for quarterback 1 reps. I think it's pretty well drones at this point, even if they're not going to exactly come out and say that.
Exactly. I think if you're Wrangle, you come in and your initial goal is to beat out Pop for the number 2 spot and show enough throughout the course of this season that the coaches feel like you have an opportunity to be a starter next year.
Relationship that they've put out there all the times on Instagram.
While she was there?
Yeah. I mean, it's absurd to think this wasn't going to get brought up. And that, it's the only thing people are going to talk about because he doesn't let players and coaches talk during the spring. So, okay, we can't write about football during the spring. There's got to be something about this football program that you write about. It's going to be you if you put yourself in the spotlight like this.
Yeah, he really thought he was going to go on CBS Sunday Morning, and they were going to ask about North Carolina football.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Right. What do you guys think about the Tar Heels this season? Who's going to be your starting quarterback this season? That's what he thought he was going to get asked.
That's why people tune into CBS Morning News.
Exactly.
Somebody on our boards made a really funny post the other day, like that Belichick and his girlfriend, whenever they take pictures together, she's always in a fancy dress and he's always in a tux, and it makes them look like the quick change artists at halftime shows, just the way they're dressed. So maybe after he gets fired from UNC, his last job can be halftime show performer, Castle Coliseum. Yeah, he can compete with Norm's favorite. What's her name?
Red Panda.
Yeah.
He changes into one tattered Navy sweater into an even more tattered Navy sweater in the blink of an eye that. It'd be very impressive.
He can go out there with what's it called? Mutts for nuts or something like that? Like the dogs jump roping and everything?
The Frisbee dogs are the
Frisbee
best.
dogs. Yeah. He can go out there with them. Ones. So, all right. Yeah. We had to hit on that. I mean, Bill Belichick in North Carolina right now. I mean, it relates ACC news. So it is certainly interesting. But all right, what's coming up on TechSideline.com? It's an interesting time of year. School year is winding down. I think, hopefully, for Andy and Chris's sake and David's sake, the spring football portal window is slowly coming to a close.
I wrote an article today about that, which I think will be my final portal article of the spring, which I hope it is. Basketball is going to have a big visitor soon, and there's some interesting things going on there. I want to talk about that on the podcast because it's not something that a lot of people know about it, but it's in my article today. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do next week. I'm going on vacation the next week, starting the 19th, and I'm going to be gone through early June. So this is probably the last you'll see of me until
August.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm coming to your graduation party, though.
Sounds good. Yeah, please do. RSVP. What about you, Andy? What's going on?
I'm still trying to wrangle Bashal Tootin to put a cap on that whole story. He's been busy with rookie stuff, and obviously the Metallica stuff this week has kept me busy. So we'll connect at some point and sort of get the draft day experience for him with that.
Yeah. Baseball and softball winding down as well. Softball tonight, ACC quarterfinals against North Carolina. Also, Virginia Tech wrestling. The Tony Roby story is pretty remarkable. Yeah. Kidney donor now for Sam Latona's father. His name.
Surgery went successful.
It did. Okay. Norm Latona undergoes a long-awaited, much-needed kidney transplant. And the donor was Tony Roby. That was very, very cool. So, What about you, Nick? Anything else going
on? Depends on how well, I guess, softball does this week, and maybe we get Pete Demore in. And we've got Friday Q&A tomorrow, and then we've got some special things planned this summer in preparation for next football season, so stay tuned for that. Hopefully we get everything to go smoothly, and we'll have some pretty cool stuff video content-wise next year, so stay tuned for that. I don't want to say anything publicly right now, but it's going to be pretty freaking awesome.
Nice. Yeah, school year is coming to a close here at TechSideline.com. So for Chris Coleman, our lead analyst and columnist, for Andy Bitter, Nick Brown, I'm Carter Hill saying so long from episode 422 of the Tech Sideline podcast, and we'll talk to you very soon.